we have any other questions for candidate Kerrigan? I think I called you Representative Kerrigan before.
So you're just ahead of yourself. You're 55 days ahead of yourself.
Yeah, that is not an official endorsement of the Sterling Democratic Town Committee or its members. Are there any other questions for the candidate? Okay, then I'll finish with a couple of questions on some recent hot-button social economic issues. Sure. What do you think of the governor's proposal to open the state to casino gambling?
I think opening the state, I'll parse the question a little bit. I think opening the state to casino gambling is something we have an obligation to look at from a revenue stream standpoint. I don't think the governor's proposal was handled all that well. Proposing 3, then after it failed saying, oh, well, I would have just accepted 1, saying it's going to create 60,000 jobs for the building trades when every study said it would create at the most 12. I just think it handled it wrong. That being said, I think we should look at that as a possible revenue stream because we have an obligation to look at all possible revenue streams. But we should look at it and get real studies behind it and really look at the issue and figure out what the economic benefit's going to be. If we build them here, are we really going to stop people from going to Connecticut and Rhode Island and other places? If so, what's the economic benefit or loss? The construction jobs alone is going to be a huge benefit, but you lose credibility in your argument when the numbers keep proving to be wrong. And I would just say I support the idea of bringing casino gambling to Massachusetts, but under the right plan.
So had the governor proposed the right plan, whatever that may be.
Whatever that is.
Yeah,
I mean, I think if we started with one license, and the way in which he sold it was a little bit more convincing and with more facts backing it up, then I would have supported it.
Ian, I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I have to ask a question on behalf of one of our members of the committee. What is your position on retesting elderly drivers? I guess there's a proposal somewhere that says they get to a certain age.
Retesting their I guess there's a proposal that after 80 years old or 85 or something. I haven't given it much thought. I just heard about the proposal not that long ago. I think we have an obligation to all of our citizens to make sure that we have safe roadways across the board. But I think we should look at any sort of age-related things. We need to be very careful about any sort of, because it's a little bit arbitrary when you're picking an age to make testing like that happen. We do it on the young end because people are immature and they need to learn things, and you can't have them driving at age 10. I'd have to look at the proposal in more depth and see what the real requirements are and what the burden is on the citizen taking the test. I usually err on the side of less imposition into citizens' lives than more, but I'd have to take a long, hard look at the proposal.
If you had been in the legislature earlier this spring when the petition came before the legislature to allow a ballot question about gay marriage, how would you have voted?
I would have voted no, not to allow the ballot question. I think the Goodrich decision happened in November of 2003. Equal marriage rights have been in place since May of 2004. Everything has worked incredibly well. We're a model to the world as to how civil we are and how well we work with each other. I think voting on a basic civil right is not something we should be doing as a legislature or as a people.
What's your position on the governor's proposal to allow all students in Massachusetts to receive in-state tuition rates at state colleges, regardless of their citizenship or immigrant status?
I support that. I think the question is if a child comes into the country through no fault of their own and completes a Massachusetts accredited high school, they should have the opportunity to receive in-state tuition. I met a kid from Brockton who, his younger brother had just graduated from Brockton High, and he was trying to get him into UMass Dartmouth. And he was first trying to get Massasoit Community College and then to UMass Dartmouth. The kid who was trying to get him in was trying to do that because he wanted to improve the lot of his family, because their parents had left them and moved back out of the country. And he himself was 22 years old and just had returned from 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he was being denied in-state tuition in state college. And if we're allowing folks to serve in our military and live and die and fight for us, I think we have an obligation to give them that.
Final question from me. What's the first piece of legislation you'll file if you're elected?
What's the first piece of legislation I'll file if I'm elected? Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I'd focus on the green municipals work to try to provide cities and towns with an opportunity to green some of their buildings. But I'd also have to be focused on any bill that would fully fund some of the unfunded mandates that are pushed down on cities and towns. I mean, I can't say it enough. When I was a selectman and a finance committee member, it was shocking to me how much of burden is pushed down by deferred decision making by people who just refuse to make the tough decisions. And if I'm successful in this campaign, I'll fulfill my commitment to go up there each and every day, starting on day 1, to make sure that the state lives up to its obligations to the cities and towns.
That's the final question for me. Are there any other questions from the audience? All right, Steve, any final thoughts?
No, I thank Sterling and the Democratic Town Committee for having me tonight. Thank everybody for coming out. And just before we go, I ask for your vote on Tuesday, September 16th. It's an incredibly important election, not only for our district, but for our Commonwealth. And I would appreciate your support. If you have any questions, you can email me at steve@stevekerrigan.org. That's Kerrigan, Kerrigan, or just go on our webpage, stevekerrigan.org. So thank you very much, Lance, for having me, and I'd appreciate your vote on September 16th.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thank you.
I'm Lance Harris from the Sterling Democratic Town Committee. There are a few people to thank. I'd like to thank the First Church in Sterling for providing the hall. Members of our committee, Bob Bloom, who is our chairman, Ron Fermanic, who is our treasurer and who's been helping to tape the event, and all of you who came tonight. Thank you very much. Good night.